I still remember the way he said it. "You're the love of my life, Emily." He used to whisper it every morning while making coffee, brushing against me like it was routine, like our life together was something unshakable. We'd been married for 11 years. We had a cozy home in Portland, 2 kids, Noah, 10, and Grace, 7, and a rhythm that felt safe. Predictable, but comforting. Until it wasn't. It started small. He began staying late at work. I told myself not to overthink it. He was managing a new project, after all. But then came the silence at dinner, the glances at his phone, the late-night work calls in the garage. You can feel when someone's heart starts leaving the room. One night, while folding laundry, I saw it. A text notification flashing across his phone. "I can't stop thinking about you." My stomach dropped. I wish I could tell you I confronted him right away, but I didn't. I froze. I wanted it to be anything else. Maybe a wrong number. Maybe a friend. Maybe a glitch in the universe. But it wasn't. A week later, I asked, "Are we okay?" He looked up from his laptop, expression unreadable. "Yeah, just tired." "You worry too much." That was the moment I knew he was lying. From then on, every ping of his phone felt like a bullet to my chest. I started doubting myself. Maybe I wasn't fun anymore, maybe I'd lost the spark, maybe this was my fault. And then came her. Her name was Lindsay. 26. Blonde, ambitious, all smiles on Instagram. I found her by accident, or maybe fate wanted me to. She'd commented on one of his old photos. "So proud of you, boss," winking face, something about that emoji, it wasn't innocent. I clicked her profile, and there they were, subtle signs that only a wife would notice. A photo at a downtown restaurant the same night he'd said he was at a client dinner. The same wine glass. The same table. My hands shook so hard, I almost dropped my phone. That night, he came home late again. I watched him walk in, loosen his tie, pour himself a drink like nothing had changed. "How was work?" I asked quietly. "Long," he sighed. "You wouldn't believe the day I've had." I stared at him for a long time before saying, "Who's Lindsay?" His hand froze mid-air. Silence. Then, "Emily, don't do this. She's just a colleague." I wanted to scream, to throw the glass across the room, to make him feel the way I did, but I didn't. I just nodded and said, "Okay." Because sometimes silence is the loudest way to say I know. Over the next few weeks, our home turned cold. The laughter disappeared. We became polite strangers, co-parents, co-tenants, coexisting. Then one evening, after putting the kids to bed, he said the words that still echo in my head, "I think I need some space." I blinked, trying to process. Space. From me? From us? I don't know, I need to figure out what I want. And just like that, the man who'd built a life with me, the one who'd held my hand through childbirth, through job losses, through grief, walked out. He moved in with her. The day he left, Grace asked, "Mommy, is Daddy mad at us?" I smiled through tears and said, "No, sweetie. Daddy just needs some time to think." But inside, I knew. He wasn't thinking. He was chasing something new, something shiny, something that would eventually lose its glow. The first few weeks were brutal. The house was too quiet. His toothbrush was gone, but the indent on his pillow still lingered. Every sound reminded me of what used to be, the hum of the fridge, the laughter that once filled the kitchen. And then came the pity looks from neighbors, the whispered, "Poor Emily" comments. I hated being pitied. So, one night, after putting the kids to bed, I made a decision. I wasn't going to fall apart for someone who chose to leave. I started running every morning. It was my therapy, one step for every tear I refused to cry. I updated my resume, got back into my old marketing field, and began freelancing again. Slowly, life began to have rhythm. I started laughing again, even if it was forced at first. But just as I started to breathe again, his name popped up on my phone. "Can we talk?" My hands trembled. It had been almost 6 months since he left. I didn't reply. Not right away. But curiosity, that dangerous mix of love and anger, got the better of me. The next day, we met at a coffee shop downtown. He looked different. Thinner. Tired. The confidence that once radiated from him was gone. "How have you been?" he asked, voice soft. "Good," I lied. "I've missed the kids," he said. Then paused. "And you?" That's when I noticed it, the faint hesitation in his tone. The guilt. The regret. Something had happened. But I didn't ask, not yet. Because part of me already knew. He stirred his coffee like he was stalling for time. The man who once made every decision with confidence now couldn't even meet my eyes. I leaned back and crossed my arms. "So, what happened to your space?" He sighed. "Things didn't work out with Lindsay." The way he said her name, careful, ashamed, made something twist inside me. I wanted to feel vindicated, but all I felt was tired. "I'm sorry, Emily. I don't know what I thought. I guess I wanted to feel young again." There it was. The truth, simple and ugly. He didn't leave because of me. He left because he wanted to escape his own reflection. "She was fun," he continued. "But it wasn't real. I made a mistake." I stared at him for a long time before answering. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary, Mark. Not walking out on your family." He dropped his gaze, shame creeping into his features. That's when he told me the rest. How Lindsay had lost interest once his money started running low. How she'd moved on to someone more exciting. How the apartment lease was in her name, and when she kicked him out, he had nowhere to go. I watched his hands shake as he spoke, and for a moment, I remembered the man I once loved, proud, dependable, ambitious. Now, he was just small. And yet, some part of me, the soft, maternal part, still wanted to help. "You can come by to see the kids," I said, keeping my voice steady. "But that's it." He nodded, whispering a small, broken thank you. As I left the coffee shop, I realized something had shifted. For months, I'd been mourning the loss of my marriage. But the truth was, the man I loved had died long before he walked out the door. A week later, he showed up at the house. Noah screamed, "Dad," and ran into his arms. Grace hesitated but eventually followed. I watched from the kitchen as he knelt on the floor, holding them close. His eyes filled with tears, genuine ones this time. When the kids went upstairs, he turned to me. "I'm trying to get back on my feet. I lost my job too. The company cut me off after everything. So now I understood. It wasn't just guilt that brought him back, it was desperation." "I'm not asking for much," he said softly. "Just until I find something new. Maybe I can stay in the guest room." My instinct screamed no. But another voice, quieter and weary, whispered, "Be kind." 2 weeks, I said. That's all. His relief was palpable. And for a while, it almost felt normal again. He helped with the kids, cooked dinner, even fixed the leaky sink he'd ignored for years. It was strange, the house felt lighter, like old ghosts were being gently folded away. But I didn't trust it. Not yet. Late one night, I walked into the living room and found him sitting in the dark. Couldn't sleep? I asked. Just thinking, he said quietly. About how badly I messed up. I didn't respond. I just sat beside him. The silence between us wasn't hostile anymore, just heavy with things unsaid. Then he said it. I don't expect you to forgive me, Em. But I want you to know I see it now. What I threw away. His voice cracked, and for the first time in a long time, I saw sincerity instead of excuses. You and the kids, you were everything. I just didn't see it until it was gone. Something in me softened. Not out of love, but closure. Because sometimes the person who breaks you is the one who finally teaches you how strong you are. But then came the phone call. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was working on a campaign pitch when an unknown number flashed on my screen. Mrs. Carter. This is from Chase Bank. We're calling about a joint account that's been overdrawn. My heart skipped. That's impossible, I said. I haven't touched that account since my husband left. The woman on the line hesitated. It seems there were multiple withdrawals last month. I froze. Mark had used my login months ago, for the kids' school payments. I never changed the password. How much? I whispered. $3,200. My hands went cold. When he came home that evening, I didn't wait. You took money from our account. His expression flickered with panic. Emily, I was going to pay it back. I just needed to cover rent after Lindsay kicked me out. You mean her rent? I snapped. He stammered, trying to find words, but I cut him off. You don't get to rob the family you abandoned. He dropped his head in his hands. I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to do. And just like that, the little progress he'd made was gone. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out, Mark. 2 weeks are over. He looked up, eyes glistening. Em, please. I've got nowhere to go. You should have thought of that before you drained your kids' savings. He didn't argue. He just left, quietly, like a man who finally understood what losing everything truly felt like. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, feeling anger and sadness swirl together like storm clouds. But under it all, I felt peace. Because I'd finally stopped hoping he'd change. I called the bank the next morning, froze all accounts, and changed every password. Then I sat down with the kids and said, Daddy won't be staying here anymore, but we're going to be okay. And for the first time, I truly believed it. A few months passed. My business grew, the kids settled, and life found its balance again. Then, one rainy evening, I got another message. Please, Emily. I just need to talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at the same coffee shop where we'd spoken months before. But this time, he looked worse. Unshaven, thinner, eyes hollow. I hit rock bottom, he said quietly. Lost everything. I don't know where else to go. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded photo, the four of us, at the beach, before it all fell apart. I keep this with me, he said, voice trembling. I just want my family back. And for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Because I'd already learned the hardest truth of all. You can love someone deeply and still know they don't belong in your life anymore. But what I said next changed everything. I stared at the photo for a long moment. The colors had faded, just like we had. But the image, us smiling, the kids laughing, was a painful reminder of a life that once felt unbreakable. Mark, I said softly, you can't keep coming back every time life gets hard. He looked at me, desperation flickering in his tired eyes. I know. But, I'm not asking for much. I just want to make things right. For you. For the kids. I leaned back in my chair, studying him. He wasn't lying, not this time. But the thing about regret is that it always comes after the damage is done. You think an apology erases everything? I asked quietly. You think you can just walk back into our lives, because you finally feel the pain you gave us? He didn't answer. He just sat there, the rain tapping against the cafe window like punctuation to his silence. That's when I realized, I didn't hate him anymore. I didn't love him either. I just felt nothing. And that nothing was freedom. I rebuilt this life without you, I continued. The kids are thriving. I'm finally happy, not because you're gone, but because I learned how to live without needing you. He swallowed hard. I'm proud of you, Em. I really am. But can't you see I'm trying? Trying. I let out a bitter laugh. You're trying now, when there's nothing left to take. His face fell. The words hit him like a punch, but I didn't regret them. 4 years, I'd carried the weight of his choices, the shame, the sleepless nights. And now, for the first time, the scales had balanced. He stood up slowly, sliding the photo across the table toward me. Keep it, he said. It belongs with you. You were the only real thing I ever had. And then he left. No dramatic goodbye, no last plea, just a quiet exit into the rain. I sat there for a few minutes, watching the raindrops race down the glass. Then I picked up the photo, folded it gently, and tucked it into my purse. Not because I missed him, but because it reminded me how far I'd come. A few weeks passed before I heard from him again. It was a text, short, hesitant. Got a job offer out of state. Leaving soon. Can I see the kids one last time before I go? I hesitated before replying. Yes. Saturday, 3 p.m. That weekend, he came by. The kids ran to him, excitement bubbling out in laughter and hugs. I watched from the porch, arms crossed, a quiet ache in my chest. He played with them in the backyard for over an hour, chasing, laughing, soaking in every moment. It was the most alive I'd seen him in months. When it was time to say goodbye, he knelt in front of them and whispered something I couldn't hear. Grace hugged him tight, Noah tried not to cry. Then he stood, looked at me and said, "Thank you, Em. For letting me have this." "Just make it count," I said. "They deserve better than broken promises." He nodded, tears brimming. Then he got in his car, and for the first time since he left, I didn't feel the urge to chase after him. Because I'd already made peace with the ending. Months went by. Life moved forward. I poured myself into work, launched my own small agency, and found a rhythm I hadn't felt in years. My mornings began with coffee and sunrise jogs, my evenings with bedtime stories and laughter echoing through the house. We weren't missing anything. One morning, while checking emails, I got a message from an unknown sender. The subject line read, "From Mark." For a second, my breath caught. I opened it. It wasn't a plea. It was a simple note. "Hey, Em. I just wanted to say thank you, for the years, for the kids, for everything. I've started over. It's not easy, but I'm trying. You were right. I had to lose everything to see what mattered. Tell Noah and Grace I love them. Mark." I stared at the message for a long time. And then, for reasons I can't explain, I smiled. Not because I missed him, but because sometimes, closure doesn't come from apologies. It comes from acceptance. That night, after tucking the kids into bed, I stood by the window, watching the moonlight spill across the floor. The house felt warm, alive. Grace's laughter drifted from down the hall, followed by Noah's voice complaining about her stealing his blanket. And I realized, this was peace. Not the kind that comes from fixing what's broken, but from building something new out of the pieces. I whispered to the quiet room, "You left me for someone younger, Mark." But when you came crawling back, broken, lost, I'd already outgrown the version of me who would have taken you back. I closed my eyes and let the silence hold me. Because I wasn't his wife anymore. I was my own person, stronger, steadier, wiser. And that's how it ended. Not with revenge, not with drama, but with dignity. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Sometimes karma doesn't come as thunder. It comes quietly, as peace in your own heart, when the storm finally passes. And when that happens, you don't need to win. You've already won. If this story touched you, tell me in the comments what you would have done. Have you ever been betrayed by someone who came back when it was too late? Share this with someone who needs to hear that healing is possible, even after heartbreak.